I'm a bad motherfucker.
I told you that Saudi Arabia did not renew the petrodollar agreement, and please don't make me explain to you what the petrodollar is. Okay, I'll do it. The petrodollar is, once the United States went off the gold standard to help prop up the U.S. dollar, we made a deal with Saudi Arabia that Saudi Arabia would only sell oil in U.S. dollars, meaning every other country in the world had to first buy a bunch of U.S. dollars if they wanted to buy oil. So that helps make the U.S. dollar the world's reserve currency, which helps prop up the value of the U.S. dollar. That is now going away because Saudi Arabia started selling oil in other denominations. So now lots of countries don't have to hold as many U.S. dollars, which is going to lower the value of the U.S. dollar. And it could collapse our economy. So that just happened. Guess what? That just happened like a week ago. And now, guess what CBS News is doing? Just yesterday. Now they're running news reports on how Saudi Arabia is implicated in 9/11. You think I'm making it up? Watch this.
The CBS News exclusive, the unnerving video outside the U.S. Capitol, filmed 2 years before the 9/11 attacks. Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us. 2 decades ago, the 9/11 Commission found that al-Qaeda acted alone, but victims' families say that is not true, pointing to this video and other evidence as proof. They are suing Saudi Arabia, claiming its government provided crucial assistance to the hijackers and planners behind the September 11th attacks that killed nearly 3,000 people. 60 Minutes correspondent Cecilia Vega reports.
A voice on the video says in Arabic, "I am transmitting these scenes to you from the heart of the American capital, Washington." This video, unsealed in federal court this week and obtained by 60 Minutes, was recorded in the summer of 1999. The man behind the camera is Omar al-Bayoumi, who the FBI says was an operative of the Saudi intelligence service with close ties to 2 of the 9/11 hijackers.
Time is 6 p.m.
The video was filmed over several days. Bayoumi recorded entrances and exits of the Capitol, security posts, a model of the building, and nearby landmarks.
Monument.
In this portion of the video, Bayoumi points out the Washington Monument and says, "I will get over there and report to you in detail what is there." He also notes the airport is not far away.
What I see Bayoumi doing is going out and making a detailed video record of the Capitol from all its sides and then conducting that 360-degree panoramic view. GS-11.
Richard Lambert is a retired FBI agent who led the initial 9/11 investigation in San Diego, where Bayoumi and the 2 hijackers lived temporarily before the attacks. He's now a consultant on the case filed by the 9/11 families.
If you've ever flown into Washington, D.C., one of the first things you see on the horizon is the Washington Monument. So if you know where your other targets are in terms of the Washington Monument, it helps guide you to your intended target.
Federal investigators believe the hijackers on Flight 93, which crashed near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, had the U.S. Capitol as their likely target. The lawyers for the 9/11 families and former intelligence analysts we spoke to believe portions of the video show Bayoumi surveilling the Capitol as part of that plan. And in the video, he references a, quote, plan.
You said that in the plan. What plan? Who is he talking to?
What do you think he's talking about?
I think he's talking to the al-Qaeda planners who tasked him to take the pre-operational surveillance video of the intended target.
So this video is taken in late June and early July of 1999. What does that timing tell you?
Well, that means it was taken within 90 days of the time when senior al-Qaeda planners reached the decision that the Capitol would be a target of the 9/11 attacks.
That's when Osama bin Laden decided to approve Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's so-called planes operation. In the days after 9/11, British police discovered the video during a raid on Bayoumy's UK apartment. They also seized Bayoumy's handwritten address book that the lawyers for the 9/11 families say was filled with phone numbers of numerous senior Saudi officials who were in the government at the time. And when Bayoumi filmed the Washington video, he was often with two Saudi diplomats who the FBI says had ties to al-Qaeda, a finding the Saudi government disputes.
Isn't this amazing? All these clues. How convenient these clues are coming out now after they repealed the petrodollar. Imagine, it's amazing how they're just landing on all of these clues 2 decades later. Isn't that amazing?
Well, it is another very large brick in a massive wall of evidence that at this point indicates the Saudi government was complicit in the 9/11 attacks.
Ken Williams is a retired FBI agent who led the 9/11 investigation in Phoenix, where one of the hijackers attended flight school. He's also a consultant on the case filed by the 9/11 families.
In terms of all the revelations that have come out as part of this 9/11 lawsuit, where does this video rank?
I think it ranks right at the top of the pile.
The government of Saudi Arabia says, nothing to see here, this is a tourist video. This is a guy out looking at the sights in Washington, D.C.
I would vehemently disagree with that. This is not a tourist video.
The British police are believed to have turned over the video to the FBI shortly after 9/11, which raises the question, why, after more than 20 years, is it just now surfacing?
Did somebody really mess this up? This seems like a really big thing to just being made public.
If that was missed, then shame on us
It was
for missing
missed. It was
If
missed.
it wasn't missed, then I would have to ask the question, what was done with it?
Missed.
That was Cecilia Vega reporting, and CBS News reached out to the FBI, which says it will not comment about ongoing litigation. Both the Saudi government and Omar al-Bayoumi deny any involvement in 9/11, and lawyers for the government have filed a motion to dismiss the case. Oral arguments are scheduled for later this summer. 60 Minutes will have more on this story in the fall.
So what that looks like to me is Saudi Arabia is running defense for the Mossad by taking the fall for 9/11, knowing that there's going to be no consequences for them anyway. But it is nice of Saudi Arabia to have donated their perfect condition passports to be found in the rubble of 9/11. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Movie set decorators wouldn't have allowed that. Here's what Mike Ben says. Mike Ben says Saudis move off the petrodollar last week, and suddenly, 23 years later, regime media finally decides to blame them for 9/11.
Huh.
That's something. No connection between the two, Mike. Come on. Not because there isn't one actually, but just because my TV sponge I call a brain is all full now and it needs to sleep. And there you go. Remember that? Saudi Arabia breaks petrodollar pact amid 9/11 controversy. Saudi Arabia's recent decision to end its 50-year agreement to sell oil exclusively in U.S. dollars, known as the petrodollar system, has sparked a wave of speculation and accusations. Following the decision, various media outlets and social media users have highlighted a resurfaced video from 60 Minutes which suggests a connection between Saudi intelligence and the planning of 9/11 attacks. This has led to widespread discussion and skepticism, with many suggesting that the timing of the video's release is not coincidental and is a response to Saudi Arabia's move away from the petrodollar. The discussions have also touched on broader geopolitical implications, including the potential shift in global financial dynamics and the impact on the U.S.-Saudi relations. The Mossad didn't have anything to do with 9/11. What are you, crazy? What? Okay, over to Steph.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. Are you going to be able to cover this story, you think?
Yeah.
Okay. To know everything is to forgive everything. Be kind to strangers. It feels great. Atlas Rise. That's nice. Thank you, Atlas. First beers on me, Raven. Thank you, Raven. Jimmy, I would like to recommend a YouTube and Patreon channel by the name of Kurimeo Ahau. AHAU, and that's Curry Mayo, KURIMEO, AHAU, especially his 26-part series titled Don't Mention the Chazars. $5 a month on Patreon, worth it. And that is Ecking Peace. Thank you so much for the recommendation. Back to Jimmy.
So Jeffrey Sachs did what I tried to do with James Whale and the hair, but they wouldn't shut up long enough. Now, at least Piers Morgan's, who has a childlike understanding of international news. Piers Morgan has a childlike understanding. And he's going to run into a guy who actually has a grown-up's understanding, an adult understanding of international news. And he's going to educate him. And tip of the hat to Piers Morgan, he shuts up long enough to let Jeffrey Sachs explain to him exactly what's going on with Ukraine. Here we go.
You seem very reliant on accepting Putin's worldview rather than perhaps the stark reality of the barbarism with which he's executed this war.
Yeah, maybe because I know too much about the United States, because the first war in Europe after World War II was the U.S. bombing of Belgrade for 78 days to change borders of a European state. The idea was to break Serbia, to create Kosovo as an enclave, and then to install Bondesteel, which is the largest NATO base in the Balkans, in the Southwest Balkans. So the U.S. started this under Clinton, that we will break the borders, we will illegally bomb another country. We didn't have any UN authority. This was a, quote, NATO mission to do that. Then I know the United States went to war repeatedly, illegally, in what it did in Afghanistan, and then what it did in Iraq, and then what it did in Syria, which was the Obama administration, especially Obama and Hillary Clinton, tasking the CIA to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, and then what it did with NATO illegally bombing Libya to topple Muammar Gaddafi, and then what it did in Kiev in February 2014. I happened to see some of that with my own eyes. The U.S. overthrew Yanukovych together with right-wing Ukrainian military forces. We overthrew a president. And what's interesting, by the way, is we overthrew Yanukovych the day after the European Union representatives had reached an agreement with Yanukovych to have early elections, a government of national unity, and a stand down of both sides. That was agreed. The next thing that happens is the opposition, quote unquote, says we don't agree. They stormed the government buildings and they deposed Yanukovych. And within hours, the United States says, yes, we support the new government. It didn't say, oh, we had an agreement. That's unconstitutional what you did. So we overthrew a government, contrary to a promise that the European Union had made. And by the way, Russia, the United States, and the EU were parties to that agreement. And the United States, an hour afterwards, backed the coup. Okay, so everyone's got a little bit to answer for. In 2015, the Russians did not say, we want the Donbass back. They said peace should come through negotiations, and negotiations between the ethnic Russians in the east of Ukraine and this new regime in Kiev led to the Minsk II agreement. The Minsk II agreement was voted by the UN Security Council unanimously. It was signed by the government of Ukraine. It was guaranteed explicitly by Germany and France. And you know what? And it's been explained to me in person. It was laughed at inside the US government. This is after the UN Security Council unanimously accepted it. The Ukrainians said, we don't want to give autonomy to the region. Oh, but that's part of the treaty. The US told them, don't worry about it. Angela Merkel explained in Die Zeit, in a notorious interview after the 2022 escalation, she said, oh, you know, we knew that Minsk II was just a holding pattern to give Ukraine time to build its strength. No, Minsk II was a UN Security Council unanimously adopted treaty that was supposed to end the war. So when it comes to who's trustworthy, who to believe, and so forth, I guess my problem, Piers, is I know the United States government. I know it very well. I don't trust them for a moment. I want these two sides actually to sit down in front of the whole world and say, these are the terms. Then the world can judge, because we could get on paper clearly for both sides of the world, we're not going to overthrow governments anymore, the United States needs to say. We accept this agreement, the United States needs to say. Russia needs to say we're not stepping 1 foot farther than whatever the boundary is actually reached. And NATO's not going to enlarge. And let's put it for the whole world to see. You know, once in a while, treaties actually hold.
So that was quite an education that Piers Morgan just got. I wish the clip went on so I could see what kind of stupid shit he said after that. Because you know he did. Did you see how he framed that? Why are you just repeating Putin's propaganda? And like, what is it? Like, Piers Morgan can't be that stupid to say something that stupid to Jeff. You know Jeffrey Sachs is going to hand you your ass, right? But that just shows you what a child's like understanding of the United States, the West, NATO, who the real warmongers are. Is just a childlike understanding. Like when I went out to dinner at the beginning of the Ukraine war with 3 Boston comics, and they just believed everything they were being told by the TV news. And I said, is there anything you hear on MSNBC that you don't believe? And you know what they said? Nothing. And one guy bragged to me, he goes, I read 2 newspapers every day. You know what those are? The New York Times and the Boston Globe. They think they're informed. So that was Jeffrey Sachs, who's been on this show. I was very flattered that he came on the show and even had nice things to say about it. He's the only guy out there telling you the truth, really, about what's going on, who's had senior positions in the establishment. So, okay, great job, Jeffrey Sachs. We should get him back on the show. That was amazing. And I would wish I could see the rest of that clip to see what kind of stupid shit that Piers Morgan said back, because you know it was. So just to wrap up, United States are the warmongers, not Russia, not China, not Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, Lebanon. The United States and Israel are the warmongers. The United States are the world's terrorists, not Al-Qaeda, not ISIS, not al-Nusra, not Bashar al-Assad. The United States are the world's terrorists. Over to Steph.
All right, Hemcar. Problem is, it's all the people that already know. We all need to hit the streets and get the facts out. Put these links in leaflets and disperse relentlessly. bantruths.wordpress.com. Hemcar, thank you so much. Kapatsy, thank you so much. Jimmy, maybe they really were your friends at one time, and it's just that this happened and they're so dumb they honestly thought you were the wrong one and now can't admit or apologize. KQ.
Well, that's the thing. If they were really my friends, they would apologize. But but they don't. They don't even apologize to their own fans. People who have shows, they have their own YouTube shows. They don't even apologize to their own viewers, which they don't have anymore. No one watches their shows. They don't even apologize to them.
All right, back to Steph. Caspa, thank you so much, Caspa CZ. All right. Nothing to share. Not a single conviction for Russian collusion, which was the basis for the investigation. All bullshit process crimes, like lying about who they talk to, right? Nothing to share. Black Dingo, thank you so much, Black Dingo, for your generosity. Ever think to ask yourself, why is it making of payments that is being criminalized in this Trump cases? Could it be precedent as a way to, outside of the CBDCs to control how people spend their money? Vienticus Prime, thank you. Purple Glue, thank you so much, Purple Glue. Much appreciated. K Dollar, hey, please bring the live show to the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco. It's a great venue. Would be great for a live show. Saw you at Cobb's July 23rd and San Jose October 2022. Would love to have you back in the Bay Area, and that's the Palace of Fine Arts. Okay, I'll look that up, okay, and I'll share it with our team. Thank you. Greasy N-word, thank you so much for your generosity. All right, Vienticus Prime, I read that one already. Vienticus Prime, Derek Bros is putting out an article on TLAV about the whole petrodollar thing. He claims there's a lot of people are getting wrong. Vienticus Prime, thank you for that. Why are these clips from 1999 better than a UFO or alien clip I've ever seen to this day? Mayleesh, thank you, Mayleesh. Okay, but who planned the controlled demolition of those 3 buildings? Bob 303, thank you, Bob. Ah, Jimmy, that dog loves you. Screw those friends. EJ Imagine. Thank you, EJ Imagine. Let's not forget Biden casting shade publicly against RFK, Dr. Merkel, and the disinformation doesn't unfuck the world. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, back to Jimmy.
His jaw was not. Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there for more AM Joy and the rest of MSNBC. And click on any of the videos right here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. And you can get more videos from MSNBC for free every day with our newsletter. Just visit
Isn't it swell? The memes make themselves. They found a rabbi hole, tunnels and all. There's Jews in the walls. Isn't it bliss? The rabbinical grace soiling the mattresses. Well, let me tell you. If I were Rabbi Shmuley and diddle 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 digga digga diddle diddle dum, all day long I'd diddle little bums. If I were a Shmuley man, I'd peddle all my dildos, dreidel dildos, selling dildos with my daughter and her mum. If I were a Jewish Shmuley man, I'd be digging with a dildo in my bum. I'd wear a grotesque nose and go grab some goyim right on the nipple with a pinch. A Shabbos lap dance brace for the youngest mensch.
At this time, more than any other time, you know, revolution is necessary. It is necessary. Not only based on what has happened with the MOVE organization, you know, the babies that have been murdered, you know, MOVE adults that have been murdered, bombs being dropped on us, but past that to what is happening with all black people, so-called minority people, you know, money poor people. You know, this government, as has been said earlier, has waged war on us. But you know, something about us, particularly here in America, we don't really understand that. You know, we don't really know what war is. You know, for black people, for poor people, that people see as good, that they wasn't forced to do, that they didn't do to try to keep black people appeased, you know, and calm down so that black people wouldn't riot. A prison situation is a crystallized example of that. You can make phone calls in prison. They have movies in prison, but they don't have those things because they just want to be nice to prisoners. They have those things because they know damn well if they don't have, you know, people being able to contact their family, if they don't have, you know, facilities for people to sit there and watch movies, people are going to be frustrated, upset, and they're going to direct that frustration at them prison administrators, and they're going to have riots on their hands. You know, they're going to have people in them prisons turning them prisons out. That's why they have movies. That's why they have access to phones the way they do. And a stop to it when we don't like it, or encouraging it when it's something that's in our interest. You know, we have to call the shots. The people have to take the reins of this system and start dictating, you know, what we need, what needs to be done. And, you know, taking the initiative to do it ourselves. We can't rely on this system. I mean, you know, don't people see what's happening? Every single confrontation that MOVE people have been involved in, every single issue, you know, oppression, economic issues, every single issue facing our people, you know, is something that can be dealt with very, very simply. All people got to do is make their wishes known. All people have to do is stand up and say, listen, we're not accepting that. Unity is the key. Unity is the key to revolution. Revolution ain't nothing to be afraid of. It ain't nothing to shy away from. Revolution, contrary to what officials, you know, this system and those backing the officials running this system, you know, want people to believe that revolution means violence, you know, means blood in the street. I'm saying it can get to that point, but it don't have to be violent. You know, when people come together and take a strong stand on an issue, this government don't have no choice but to listen. Where you think they get their authority from? They don't have no power, but they do have authority to do certain things. Where you think they get it from? They get it from us, from the people. You know, they get it from us accepting the things that they do to be done to stop it. Then you have some people who want to then turn around and say, yeah, well, you know, it's the best we have, and want to make excuses. The time for excuses is over. It's over. You know, every man, woman, and child has to be involved in this revolution. Not only has to be, but is, whether you want to be or not. I mean, our babies gave their lives for this revolution on May 13th. You know, men, women, and children were murdered. And not just move babies, you know. What about all of the young men, women, you know, children 8, 9 years old shot down on the street by cops, you know, by drug pushers? I mean, you know, where do you think that mentality comes from? It comes from this system, from the mentality of this system of getting over, you know, making a quick buck, you know. I'm saying that's where that needs to be done to stop it. Then, you know, what I want people to really, really understand is that it's past time. It is past time for poor people, black people, you know, to realize that this system has failed you. It has failed you. You can't get nothing from it. And what people got to do is withdraw our support from it and start doing for ourselves. That's what we got to do. You know, how long are people going to sit back and beg, you know, this government to do what's right when for hundreds of years all you've gotten is a slap in the face? All you've gotten is this government kicking your ass. That's all. That's all black people have ever gotten from this government.